Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. We are discussing Crescent City. So, reading the book, I started with chapter 7. Didn't realize that chapter 7 was like the last page until it started. What they say this was part 2, the trench. So literally I did 1 through 6 in the first video, and now we're gonna do 7 through chapter 16 because that's where I've currently stopped. So if you are new here, hi, welcome. My name is Rose, and you are currently on a series where I am reading Crescent City, the first one, for the first time, and I am sharing my review with you every couple of chapters. So there will be spoilers in my reviews. I'm going to share any kind of theories that I may have, things like that. And if we meet any new characters, I will be putting up some pictures that I find through fan art regarding those characters. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this review. So, for starters, we didn't meet any new characters, chapters 7 through 16. Heck, I didn't even highlight anything because I've been so engrossed in the story that, yeah, I mean, I think, let's see. So, I highlighted some things from, chapter 8, and since then I haven't highlighted anything. So, recap: we know Danica and her wolf pack are dead. They put Philip Briggs back into jail, thinking that he was the person who had hired, or not hired, but who had summoned a demon to come into Crescent City and kill off the wolf pack. So chapter 8 brings you to what they call the trench. So chapter 7, let me start off there. So chapter 7 was very short. We're talking a page and a half, and then it was done. And I was like, really? If I would have known that, I would have just done the review chapters 1 through 7. But didn't want to skip ahead. Figured I already went past the 5th chapter, and I said, every 5 to 10 chapters, right? So, chapter 7 goes into basically, Bryce is at a very dark point. Obviously, her best friend just passed away, or her soul sister, we might call her. And, she has no one now to turn to or anything like that. And we find that she is not allowed to go to Danica's sailing, for the dead. Danica's mother doesn't want her there. Not that I didn't see that coming. So instead of her going to the sailing, since she's prohibited, she goes somewhere else, and it doesn't exactly point out where she goes. However, I think that she's in the Underking's territory, kind of like the land. Let's see if I have the map here. So I think she's probably at the Dead Gate or the Bone Quarters. I'm not 100% sure on that though, because it doesn't really tell you in chapter 7 exactly where she is, except for that she is in a place that nobody really goes to. There's a lot of silence, and there's mist, and that's basically what death is, right? Darkness, silence, and mist. Oh no, it does tell you. So it says that she's at the bone gates of the hewn city, where there's rib cages of the long dead. So that's what the gate's made out of, is dead people's rib cages. Very morbid. But there's a creature who is in this mist that emerges, and that's it. I'm like, why not give us anything, right? Like, she's just bowing before the gates and, you know, wants to say her last goodbye to her soul sister and probably to any members of the pack that she may have been close to. And something emerges from the mist. I'm thinking it's the Underking. Have no fucking clue, though, because what do? We go from her lifting her gaze to the trench, part 2. And then it jumps and goes 22 months later. Okay. So, please tell me you're going to fill me in on the 22 months that there's a gap between chapter 7 and 8. 22 months. Almost 2 years. Like, what? Seriously? Yeah. Okay. So, you ready? So we're 22 months in. She is talking about how she's at a club. She's meeting with a vampire who's 200 years old. Oh, we did meet somebody. But he's already dead. Spoiler. So this Maximus guy, didn't even look him up. Figured why, because in the next chapter he dies. But I did for Danica. But anyway, whatever. I'll try to find a picture of him. If I do, you'll see it, you know, like somewhere's over in this section. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so we have Maximus. He is a 200-year-old vampire. He's unwed. He's unmated. And he is the son of Lord Caradon? Cadaran? I don't know. Anyway, one of the richest vamps and most monstrous, it says. So apparently, like, this guy, I almost called him a kid, but I'm like, wait, he's 200 fucking years old. He's not a kid. So he likes to torture his women, I guess, and then eat them. So Bryce is like, yeah, not in this lifetime. So while we're sitting and they're doing this meeting she's trying to sell him a piece of, antique artifact, something that belonged to some other vampire, whatever. And there's this group of girls that are having their drop ceremony. So they're getting ready to make the drop and take on their immortal self. You know, shed their mortal body or their mortal soul and embrace their immortality, right? So she goes in talking about this, and I found that this was really interesting. So she talks about the drop, and she talks about that there's the first light, which happens during your drop, is the purest power that's generated. It's undiluted. And it's emitted during the light, and only during the drop that the flash of first light appears, raw, unfiltered magic. It could heal and destroy and do everything in between. And this first drop is basically siphoned. Who takes it? So the Republic takes it. It's captured and bottled up, the first glow, which has always been used for healing, and then the rest is handed over to energy plants to fuel the lights, cars, machines, and techs. And some of it's used for spells and other reserves for whatever shady shit the Republic wants. Okay, so when you make the drop, right, you get this burst of your power. Here it is. And the Republic comes in and goes, whoop, here's a bottle. And they suck it, and it's gone. So, like, you don't even get to absorb, from what I'm getting from this, you don't get to absorb your full power, your full immortal power, because the Republic, might as well say the government, takes that first initial blast of power that's the most powerful, it's undiluted, and use it for whatever they deem worthy. That's nice. It's, quote unquote, a donation of the first light by each citizen is required. And you go to this government center in a sterile room where the light from each person making the drop is gobbled up during the transition from immortality to true power. And it's all tracked by a system. Well, hell. So not only is the government controlling, right, everything that goes on within the cities, towns, or this continent, but then they're also harnessing everyone's power. Kind of just sounds like a little bit more, I don't know, not like socialism, but like something where they're controlling everything. So you can't absorb your full power. They're going to take most of it so that you can't overthrow them. You see where I'm going with this? Okay, so let's go with that. Then they also say that during the drop, there is a time basically where your mortal body expires. So you die, and you have to come back to life through your immortality, right? So your body expires, and then the countdown begins. It's only there's mere minutes to race back to life. 6 minutes basically for you to start running down the psychic runway to get back to your life. And alternately, you always have someone to do the drop with, which is your anchor. So after, I guess, your heart stops beating, your anchor is going to be the voice in your ear going, don't die, hang on, keep coming, come back. You're almost there. You can do this. Hold on. Don't let go. Fight for your life. You've got something to fight for. You know, that's your anchor. So you've got this person that's like this beacon or a lifeline or a bungee cord, they say, that's supposed to snap your companion back to life. And they say that during the 6 minutes that you're dead, it's called your search. And then once your search is done, you then ascend and are beaming with your new power, and that your immortality has attained and your aging process now slows to a glacial drip. Okay, great, cool. So, my theory back then, chapters 1 through 5, was, sorry, I keep itching because I don't know why. So, chapter 1 through 5, I was thinking that since Bryce has barely any visible, remarkable power, she has, which I'm getting ready to drop a huge spoiler on you too, her dad, the Fae, is also immensely powerful, but she doesn't have a scratch of it. Well, hell no, she doesn't, because she hasn't made the drop yet. So that makes total sense. So when she makes the drop, she's then going to come into all of this power that they obviously can't see that's harnessed within her. Probably because of, however, maybe it has something to do with her dad. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, so we have that. So she comes back into herself after explaining how the drop works, why she wanted to do it with Danica. Now she's not sure who she's going to do it with. Like, who knows, whatever. And you've got this stupid vampire sitting next to her at the Raven who's trying to make passes at her. And she's like, yeah, no, dude. Buy the shit. Fuck you. I'm going home. And all of a sudden, don't you know, her cousin, Rune Dannon, comes waltzing in, and everybody's all like, ooh, look at him. Sorry. I know the internet is crazed right now over Rune Dannon, and maybe I might become that way once I figure out why. I'm still hung up on Reese, Cassian, and Az from fucking ACOTAR. So, in my opinion, Rune has a lot of big shoes to fill before he even comes up into that plane. But anyway, so Rune basically saves her from this idiot, tells him to go and get lost. So then she's walking back to her house, or her hotel, whatever. Kicks off her shoes. She goes to sleep. And, well, come to find out, the vampire dies the same way that Danica died. Yeah. So now they're like, well, Phillips Briggs was in prison, so it wasn't him. But it was the same demon, because everything matches up. The same way that this vampire died is how Danica and them died. And so we have that. Then we have that Danica and this vampire knew each other. But Bryce didn't know anything about that relationship. Danica never told her anything about a relationship with this 200-year-old vampire. So there's some other thing we've got to kind of like keep on a shelf and reserve for later, right? So here's the big kicker. So Danica's dad, or not Danica's dad, Bryce's dad. Bryce's dad is the king of the Autumn Court. What? That's right. Rune is her brother, not her fucking cousin. It's her brother. Her brother, who is like this star child, blessed child, whatever, who took a sword, something about, see, this is why you should highlight stuff so that you can refer back to it. So, this star sword, I guess the Autumn King wanted it, and, yeah, he didn't have enough power to pull it, or maybe his power wasn't pure enough. So the sword was kind of like, fuck you, kind of like Sword and Stone. You know, you had to be worthy in order to get this power. So, but it is, you basically can wield the light of a star. Okay? So Rune has very little of it. He can find the power and he can withstand it, but for like mere moments. But for whatever reason, the sword chose him and was like, yes, here you go. You can, you know, have it. Daddy Dearest wants to go ahead and form an alliance because he's worried about shit's about to break down during this whole summit meeting, and the person who's coming obviously isn't a nice person. And Hunt knows the person. Hunt is, oh my goodness, what the hell was her name? See? And you know, I didn't write anything down this time either, so that I could kind of keep my brain all in one track. Of course, during all of these chapters, there hasn't been that much like major evolvement, like chapters 1 through 5, where it was like word vomit, couldn't get enough out, right? So anyway, so during the rebellion, you had like these two sisters, and the one is coming to the Senate, and the one knows Hunt, and from what I get, he used to be owned by her before. Hold on. Let me get my notebook. Okay. So, let's see. We have... So Micah now owns Hunt, right? And he also owns Isaiah, because they were part of the angels that were part of the rebellion. Okay? So, since Hunt is owned by Micah, Micah's like, listen, this person's coming, because God forbid I find her name. But she's coming to the summit. She's like our main person. And, you're going to have to ignore her. And Hunt's like, yeah, no, that's really not going to be possible. So, what Micah does is he goes to the antique gallery and tells Bryce, listen, Philip Briggs didn't kill your best friend's soul sister. However, we still have him on a whole bunch of other accounts now. So he's still going to be in jail. But we are now asking you to help us find the murderer because you knew both people that this demon sought out to kill, Danica and this Maximus guy. And she's like, seriously, what the fuck? Like, how am I gonna find him? Right? So then Micah's like, oh, and by the way, your sidekick is gonna be Hunt. So we have this huge attitude battle going between Bryce and Hunt. She doesn't need a babysitter. He feels like he has to babysit her because she's just, whatever. I'll figure it, whatever. If it happens, happens, whatever. And Hunt's like, yeah, so no, we're gonna need to find this killer because Micah's like, if you find the killer before the summit, then you'll only owe me X amount of lives left to torture, kill, whatever Micah deems worthy. And then you're free. So Hunt's all about, like, fucking getting this shit done, right? And he's like, dude, Bryce, you need to, like, come on. And she's like, go fuck yourself, right? And he's like, I don't understand. Like, I've never had that effect on somebody. So I find that this dynamic's very funny. However, I also find that this dynamic actually reminds me of Throne of Glass and the whole attitudes and egos that we see between Aelin and Rowan. Yeah, that's what it's reminding me of. So, are Bryce and Hunt mates, or are they going to become best friends? Like, how is this going to help? I find that I may have already gotten the answer thanks to fan art. But if I didn't see any fan art, I'm hoping that maybe he will become her anchor for the drop when she's ready. I also am hoping that he is going to be the person in her life to help heal this void that she now has because she doesn't have anybody else. So I'm hoping for that. The other thing too that is currently like a big thing in here is that there is a horn of power has gone missing, or the horn which has no power has gone missing. It belonged to the Fae first, so the Fae want it back, and it's called Luna's horn. Funny. So the Autumn King has also drawn Rune into finding this horn, and Jessica has also asked Bryce to find this horn. So we have that too coming into play. Though Bryce could care less about the horn and is just running around not trying to find it, but is wasting Jessica's time. I swear, that woman, she scares me. I definitely would not want to be turned into any kind of a fucking creature. So hopefully Bryce plays her cards right and stays out of that situation. And then I do have a picture to share. So we also have this Shrinks. I'm guessing that's how you pronounce the name of this creature. So it's supposed to be some kind of like a lion, cat, dog looking thing. I don't know. The pictures that I see depicted of it, I guess, probably what SJM was looking at. I really wish SJM would have come out with like some fan art for these things, because sometimes I feel like we are completely off base. But anyway, so Bryce has this pet in her apartment, a gift from Jessica, and basically it's kind of like her early warning system. So it's attacking the glass in her apartment. She's wondering what the fuck is wrong with it, kind of like a dog. And come to find out, here's Hunt across the way, sitting on top of the rooftop, like staring at her room or apartment. So she shuts the windows. He calls. Then we have this whole dynamic between them of this bickering, arguing. And Micah, I think Micah is just a normal, power-hungry, like, governor, and thinks that any pretty thing that walks by him, if he says jump, will say how high. So I think he's hoping to get something from Bryce Though, with the way Bryce and Hunt are interacting, I have a feeling, though, that even though Micah is very nice looking, he doesn't have a shot. And he's just too fucking up there on his own pedestal to even figure it out. But most egotistical men are like that, like narcissism. So, anyway. So, we have that. If you like Micah, I apologize. This is just what I'm going off of. So she has this little creature, and come to find out, this creature can pick locks. It can winnow to different places. It ended up biting Hunt on the ass. That's pretty fucking funny. So yeah, like, it's pretty crazy that she has this creature who she thinks she can, you know, lock up in a crate like a dog, but it can get out at any time. I don't know if she's aware of that or not, but I guess we'll find out. So there's that. And then the last thing that I had highlighted was going back to Rune and his dad, or their dad, Bryce and Rune's dad was, you know, the dad wants him to get married, sire and heir, so that the line can, you know, move on, whatever. And I guess at the time of the drop, you also see an oracle, and this oracle is supposed to give you some grand something or other. And basically the oracle tells Rune that the Autumn King's line, or the Fae line, will die with him. It's not going to be... He won't be the person to further the line. So there was that big, huge thing, which he's never told his dad about, so the dad has no idea. So, yeah. I talked about the Star Sword. Talked about Bryce and Rune having the same daddy. That's funny. The only other thing... the only other thing that I found that I did highlight was they were talking about the entrance to the antique store, and this just reminded me of Throne of Glass, actually. But they said that wherever the words are that say that it's Griffin Antiquities, there's a set of owl eyes kind of like watching over. And if you guys read Throne of Glass, owl eyes were for all of the healers. So I don't know if it's going to have kind of the same representation here, but I figured with Sarah J. Maas and this whole multi-universe thing that she's got going on between books, and which we do know with different memes and shit that are out there, like, we know that there's going to be a cross between books. We already had Aelin cross into Akatar during that whole Falling Through Worlds. She may have even have crossed through Crescent City, but we haven't come to that realization yet. Like, I don't know, but so far I'm at chapter 16. I'm not really sure what else is going to happen yet. So I've got a lot of unanswered questions, right? We have almost 2 years of a gap. We have no idea who the hell the stupid person was that was in the mist there at the Bone Gate, though. I'm really thinking it was probably the Underking looking for something from this half human, half fae that hasn't done the drop yet, and who knows what her power is going to be. Then we have the whole dynamic with Bryce and Hunt, and them having to work together to try to figure out this murderer. Then we also have the new information about Rune and Bryce actually being brother and sister, or half brother, half sister, with the same fae daddy. That's ew. And, you know, this whole summit coming up, and this one head coming, and like basically everyone is going batshit crazy. It actually reminds me of like Devil Wears Prada when Meryl Streep is coming to the office and they're like, oh my goodness, she's not supposed to be here yet, you know, and everyone starts flying through the office, like putting shit away, putting on their high heels. Like, that's what I feel. Everyone is currently scrambling, trying to get all of their loose ends together before this summit comes. And from what I gather, the summit is huge for the governor to make sure that he has everything within working order and that his power is not being diminished by anything, that he's upholding the power and has control, and there isn't any loose ends to show that he is lacking in any area. So with the summit coming up, we'll see how that goes. The whole dynamic with Bryce and Hunt, we'll see how that goes. Hopefully we'll find out eventually who the hell the person was in the mist. And I can't wait to see what kind of other stuff we get from Rune and Bryce being brother and sister. So there is some history there. Something happened and they had a big falling out, which is why they don't really talk. You know, he sees her, he's trying to keep her under wraps, low key, until after the summit because something's happening with the whole Autumn King. Yeah, like there's just so much stuff. So we will see what's going to come up in the next couple of chapters. So 16, I'm going to say probably like chapter 25 will come back unless something huge and dynamic happens and I'm like, yeah, no, screw that. We need to talk about it now. I need to get this shit off my plate. So otherwise, I will be back then to talk about 16 through 25 in the next video. If you guys like this video or are liking this series, please give it a thumbs up. Remember, if you have read the series, please keep all spoilers out of the comments. I want to experience this for myself as much as possible. But if you want to join in with the discussions, or if you want to interact with me with like comments on theories that you may have or might have had, but you know the answer to them, but you know, just kind of like, hey, here's this tidbit you might not be thinking of. Here's that Easter egg. So drop that down there, you know, that would be wonderful. So we will see where this goes, and I'm completely excited. So until next time, I'm going to close the video out here. It was nice spending some time with you all, and I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. It's coming up for President's Day weekend, so we have an extended weekend, which is nice. But otherwise, I hope you guys have a wonderful night, a great weekend, and I will see you all in a couple of days. Bye.